I love your story, man. You got any questions before we dive in?
I no, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
I remembered that I looked at your stuff and thought, wow, this sounded cool, so I'm in.
Yeah, let's do it. And I felt the same way. So, Roger, it's wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So, let's begin our journey with 6 years ago, this pandemic changed our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach life today?
Oh, wow. I like questions like that. I am a single dad, and at the time I had four kids at home during the pandemic, and my particular work at the time did not slow down, did not stop, did not. In fact, I was busier during the pandemic than I've ever been, with all my kids at home, with a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So for me, it was about just get shit done, laser focused. Like it was like I didn't have time to think. And it really, really brought me to a new place of just being able to just get it done. Just prioritize, move, go. It really dialed me in because I didn't have time to do anything else.
So I want to know exactly what you do for a living. I want to put you in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds. It's career day. You're in a school, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer that child?
Oh, well, it just changed, and that's what's exciting. Well, it didn't change, it evolved. Right now, what I'm doing is wonderful. I create a system that helps people create better habits easier. That's the simplest way to say it. Um, I help people do things that they've tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed lots of times. I have a system to help you do it. Finally, just get it
Okay.
done.
So let's peel back the layers. What did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream?
My dream was to, honestly, my dream when I was a kid was not what I ended up being at all. I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
I love biology. I love science. I love nature. I ended up going into behavioral health, mental health, and now I've kind of come full circle, and it's gone to neurological health, neuroscience, really more than anything else, and helping people using that. So what I always wanted to do is make people better. I guess really that's what it was. My whole life, all I've ever wanted to do is find ways to help people be happier. Everything I've ever done.
So where were you born and raised? Where are you from?
Um, Northern Arizona,
Okay.
very small town.
Okay. So what do you
Yeah.
think what was it about growing up? Because a lot of our development happens by even the time we're 3 years old. What was it about you growing
Oh,
up that
absolutely.
gave you this idea, this impulse for mental health and helping people achieve things? What was that about your upbringing?
I don't think I wouldn't say it was about my upbringing. I think it was about my life experience. My upbringing, I had no interest at all in the mental health side of it. I had a pretty rough life. And when you grow up with struggles, you start to see other people's struggles and have a need to help them. So my world didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. And things shifted and changed, but I very quickly learned that I had an affinity towards helping people.
So that dot going from Arizona to Vietnam is quite huge. How did your career begin? How did you evolve to this point where you're at now with this groundbreaking breakthrough?
Um that's like asking wow, that's like 17 stories all in
Okay,
one,
so what
honestly.
so
So
yeah,
I I'll
no, you're good.
I can put it into a really quick nutshell. I the life that I was raised in, the life that I grew up in was not the life that fit for me anymore. I became a single dad raising five kids by myself. Did that for 18 years. It was exhausting. It was hard. It was frustrating. It was lonely. I was exhausted. And during all of that, I managed to build some pretty significant businesses and do some really cool things and create the dream I'd had since I was 17 years old was to travel the world one day. And so when we hit a point, My kids were graduated out of the house, and my husband looked at me one night and said, "Can you get me out of here?" And I said, "Absolutely. I've been planning this since I was 17 years old." And 6 months later, we left.
So what
So
bring
basically, it's just my turn.
yeah,
I spent the last 18 years raising kids, and now it's my turn.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
totally get that. So what brought you to Vietnam specifically?
Fate. It was so the plan eventually was, or originally was that we were just going to be slow nomads and travel the world and move every 3 to 4 months. Um, we started in Thailand, and we planned on just making Vietnam part of the tour. We had planned on 6 weeks. No, we'd planned on 3 months last summer, and we haven't left Hoi An. It's an amazing country, an incredible community, a beautiful little town. I'm happier than I've been in decades. And the life here is really simple. So we will leave, but the circumstances that we're in right now, we always said that we would travel until we felt like we needed to go to the next place, and if we ever needed to stay a little longer, we would. And this is one of those places that we'll be here for a minute. Um, and we have no idea when we'll leave. It's just how it is. I'm restricted by visa. I only have 3 months, and so every 3 months we have to make a decision. Do we stay for another 3 months or do we go? So for now, the decision is to stay.
I love it.
It's a fantastic place to live.
I hear that when people talk about traveling the globe, they always come to Vietnam and they talk about how magical it is there. And I find it interesting juxtaposed to what
I know.
American history, what we did as Americans,
Oh,
and that being a polarizing point. It's interesting.
trust me. Trust me. I was born during the Vietnam War, which we don't call the Vietnam War here. It's the American War over here. And so I grew up with all the movies, all the, Platoon and Hamburger Hill and Saving Private Ryan and all those. And I had a lot of thoughts in my head of what I was taught Vietnam was. And I was 100% wrong. And I can say 100% that in the United States, our history that we were taught is not accurate.
Yeah.
And I've learned that being here. And so it was, if you would have asked me a year ago, I never in a billion years would have dreamed that I would be this happy living. I thought I would travel through and be done. And I'm hooked. It's a wonderful place.
So let me ask you this. You've come up with the system of helping people break through and do something
Mhm.
they've been trying to do. What was that first time for you? What gave you this idea?
Um, the idea came from I have a 30-year history of being I spent about a little over 30 years before I left working with people as a life coach. I'm an NLP practitioner, a lot of mental behavioral health. I've studied neuroscience for 30 years. I know the subconscious mind intimately. I've written books. I could classify as an expert on the subconscious. So about 2 weeks into this journey, like literally, I can tell you 100% leaving the chaos that I was living in has allowed my brain to create things that I never thought in a billion years that I could. So how it started was that I had an idea one night. I have a really bad back. It's kind of funny how this started. I have a lot of issues with my back, and some of that stems from very poor posture. Nobody taught me how to stand right. Nobody taught me how to hold my body right. I never knew that that was a thing. It's just how I go. It's very strange. But anyway, so I've excuse me, I've attempted for decades to correct my posture. I've bought the little belts and the straps and the shirts and the little buzzer that buzzes when I slouch and apps and all of it. And nothing. Um, so combine that with the fact that I've worked with over 15,000 clients over 30 years. I used to teach large workshops and seminars and retreats, and I've taught people for decades how to overcome the stuff that keeps us back from being who we want to be. That's kind of what I've done for 30 years. And so I took all that I know about neuroscience, and I thought about actually, no, I'm jumping ahead. Before I took all that together, I thought one day I was really hurting. I was sitting on the balcony of our deck of this overlooking the ocean in this beautiful island in South Thailand. And I thought I need something. If somebody could like remind me frequently throughout the day at all different time variables, hey Roger, stand up straight. Hey Roger, hold your core. Hey Roger, strengthen your core. I have no core strength. But if I had somebody randomly reminding me throughout the day, that it would create change. See, random reminders keep the brain active and keep the brain engaged. Um, Scheduled reminders, checklists, things like that, the brain gets very bored very quickly. So a random reminder keeps the brain saying, wait, when's the next one? When's the next one? I don't know. And so it builds a stronger neural pathway for the new behavior you're starting. I knew that from my work. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I need to find an app that can remind me randomly to do what I need to do. And so I researched and researched and I went through hundreds of apps and there isn't one. So I've always believed and taught my kids that if you really want something and it's not there, figure it out and create it.
Yeah.
So I had this idea and it started to form and it's turned into something really amazing that is bigger and greater than I ever dreamt it would be. And it's basically just a really simple app that reminds you at random times during the day to do whatever it is that you're trying to do to establish a habit. And when you do it, you push the little button to say you do it and you get a dopamine hit. So then your brain is like, oh, wow, that was cool. Dopamine's good. I like that. So what we've done is we've taken dopamine and turned it back into the good guy.
Yeah.
So many people have turned dopamine into being the bad guy. And dopamine is a very powerful chemical that helps us. So if we use it by attaching it to this reward system of these random reminders that are going to wire new neural pathways in our brain, then the habit gets locked in and not in just like in a literal sense, like literal neural pathways in our brains will be created to lock in the habit and it will become part of us. Habits are best locked in between 66 and 90 days. So I tell everybody, give me 90 days and you'll start a new habit. And
Yeah.
it's turned into one of the most incredibly fun things I've ever done in my life.
That's wonderful. So, who's been your inspiration in your life for all these wonderful things that you've done, everything you've overcome and evolved to? Who has been that hero for you?
There's been a few. There's been a few. I would say the first one that always comes to mind is a gentleman by the name of Thomas Wilhite. Thomas Wilhite was a man who created a person development program in California back in the 70s, and he created some pretty amazing work that helped me get on my path of healing and discovering and learning who I am and how to be with other people and common humanity. But he taught me some really core principles just about life and humanity. He one of the greatest mentors. His writings are wonderful. I've always followed him, so I follow him wholeheartedly. Other than that, um, random people throughout my life and my kids. I have my kids are the five most amazing human beings that live on this planet outside of myself and my husband. They're incredible, and I learn from them and love them every single day.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, have a lunch that might help you on your journey, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Wow. Um, Thomas Beckwith. Um, Absolutely. I want somebody who has good influence with good people, and he does.
Yeah.
Um, who I would have. I mean, right now in this moment in history, that the answer to that question has changed so much. I need to qualify who that person is, everything about who they are before I say yes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Thomas Humphrey Buckley, like he's a man with amazing influence who supports being better, and
Yeah.
he's incredible.
So the one thing about our lives is these random acts of kindness can change the trajectory of how we live and what we do. What's one of the nicest things somebody's ever done for you?
Hmm. Um, wow. That's a pretty incredible question because there's a lot. I'm trying to think of one sticks out.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was really struggling as a single parent. I was on the road a lot, leaving my kids alone for a couple days at a time. I had older teenagers, so it was okay. But it was rough, and I would be gone to meetings until after bedtime, and I would come home to a dirty house, and I'd have to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning cleaning the house and go to bed to wake up and do it in the morning. And I was exhausted. And I came home from a meeting. It was about 12:30. I was knew that the house was a wreck. And there was a note from my son on the table that said, "I knew you had a long day, so you can go to sleep now. I love you." And the entire house was clean. Dishes, floor. It was a big house, and it was everything. And that was one of the most touching moments I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow, that's amazing. So
Just to know that he saw it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. So what is it that gets you up in the morning? What is it that motivates you to do this work, to take care of your soul, to do it at a high level? What do you look forward to when that alarm clock goes off?
First of all, I don't have an alarm clock,
There you
and
go.
that's the number one thing that's so
I was
wonderful.
waiting for that.
um, I don't live by an alarm clock. I haven't for a very long time, but especially now. But when I wake up, what gets me excited about doing what I'm doing is that I really do believe. I'm 55 years old, and I've done, like, if you saw my resume, like, I did whatever had to be done for most of my life, and to know that I finally did it. Like, I'm telling you, bro, when you see this app and what it can do, it feels like the pinnacle of my whole life and everything I've ever wanted to do and trained for and lived and done. And I know that it will impact people's life for the better. I believe my personal mission has been for decades to do anything I can to raise the vibration of humanity. And I really do believe that this is going to do it in a big way. And I'm very excited about that. And so I haven't worked this hard on anything in my life because I'm so excited about it.
It almost seems like a project that would be akin to this would be writing a life story, writing your biography.
100%. Yes.
Now, you talk about going through some rough things, some trauma. What would that be like for
hmm
you? Is that something you've thought about that? Would you be willing to revisit those things to put it on paper and to have your story out there?
So I started writing my story in 2020, 2021, around 2021. And I've always known that I have a powerful story. I've had documentaries written and made about me. Like, I've had some stuff in my life that could really help some people, and I've wanted to write my story for decades, and I finally in 2021 started writing, and it started flowing out of me like anything has ever. Like, it was magic, and I dove deep into some really tough stuff. And I did so much healing and I did so much crying, and it was really good. And then my life got really crazy and it kind of got put on the back burner. And I was so excited to come to this journey so that I could have nothing to do all day long but sit in my house on the beach or wherever I am and write. And the first day that I sat down and I pulled up my computer and I opened up to my Google Drive where the document has been since the day I did it, and it's gone. And I have searched hard drives, I have searched Google accounts, I have searched everything. And I'm telling you, it was about 80% done. And it's a story. It's a book. And when it first, like, I tell you, for weeks I searched and I searched and I searched. And I finally hit this really cool point where I said, you know what? The me of 2021 would have written a very different book than the me of 2026.
Yeah.
So I'm totally okay to just let it go, as that was my warm up. And I did do some beautiful healing. And now it's time to tell my story because now it matters. And so I'll write it again. Once this app is launched and I have a little bit more free time, I will absolutely dive into writing my story again.
So speaking of that story, if you had a dream tonight, ran into an 18-year-old version of you, and you had a film projector next to you and you click play and had a 60-second highlight reel of the life you've lived, would that young version of you at all believe that your life turned out this way?
He would run. No, he would not. He would not. He would be very confused.
Yeah.
He would be very confused. Um, but I think when he gave it a minute, he would be really excited. Um, so yeah,
So, of everything that you've done, overcome, accomplished, and evolved to, what are you the happiest about, the proudest of?
raising my kids,
Yeah.
with it hands down. It was a long journey. It was a tough journey for them and for me. And successfully raised five kids who have all five become spectacular human beings. During the time that we did by myself in one of the most expensive cities in the United States to live in, I don't know how I did it. I really don't. And I'm really, really proud of it.
So, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you know in a business, personal sense, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm one of the realest people you'll ever meet. And I've hit a place in my life where there's no other reason, there's no reason not to be. And who I am is who I am, and what I say is what I'm going to say, and how I say it's how I'm going to say it. And I have a really amazing understanding of humanity, a very good understanding of human behavior and what makes people tick. So I see who you are before we even talk. I know your heart. I feel it. I see it. I see it in your eyes. I see it in your expressions. I've trained for 30 years to even notice micro expressions in people's faces. So I know who you are already. I just do. I don't know how, but I just do. So there's nothing to hide. So let's just be real.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Amen. So, let me
So
ask you
that's who I
this.
am.
Yeah. No, I love it. So, let me ask you this. I talk to people internationally, and I'm watching what's happening in America, this country that we all, I think, already have a misalignment and an understanding of what history is based on what you just said with Vietnam. What does it mean? What does it feel like to be out of this country now and watching what's happening?
Um, really hard.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a vet. I served in my military. I raised my arm to the square. I raised my children there. And to see the world that, well, let me say it's hard. It makes me sad. But here's the other piece of it. I think that we live in one of the most fascinating times in history
Yeah.
that will ever be.
Yeah.
We are watching the fall of a nation that needed to fall decades ago, if you ask me. And it's, I when this all started, I started doing some research, and I love looking into history and comparisons, and being over in Asia, I wanted to look in if you compared the United States to, say, China. If China was a person and United States was a person, if China was about, 47, 48, middle-aged, based on their history and how many years they've had, proportionally the United States is a toddler.
Yeah.
And on the world stage, the United States is a toddler.
Yep.
And it's really, as somebody who was bullied extensively for most of my life, it is wonderful to start to see the bullies starting to get theirs. And I do believe that we're living in a time when we will see some massive change in the way things are done in our world because of what's happening right now. And it's terrifying of how fast it's going there, and how living here and watching it, honestly, it's kind of like you wake up every morning like your partner was binge watching something on Netflix the night before and say, "Hey, what happened in America last night?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what it feels like. And to see, this is a whole, this would be a 3 hour podcast if I really went into this, but watching how the world is watching America right now has become really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
I sit around a table we daily with people from 6 or 7 different countries, and to hear what people are seeing from the outside and what the rest of the world is watching. And it's one of the most spectacular moments in history we'll ever see, and we're living it. And it's terrifying and it's fascinating all at the same time.
Absolutely. Well said. So, if anybody wants to get the app, they want to reach out, they want to learn more, any of the good business in your world, where is the best place to go?
Best place on any social media. I'm Random Habit App, APP, and my website is randomhabitapp.com. But it's Instagram is where I'm most active, but my website too. The app actually is not launched yet. It is very close. We're in final testing phase right now, and then we go to beta, and hopefully within the next 30 to 45 days it will be launched. And I can tell you it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The implications of what we've seen that it can do are pretty spectacular.
Yeah. What a wonderful story, Roger. I feel so fortunate to have arced into your orbit for just a little bit of time. You're a spectacular,
Thanks.
wonderful human being, and it's been my honor to be able to have a little bit of time to talk to you and to feel Vietnam and to see kind of another screen on America, because right now we're I feel like we're in an out of body experience. So to feel a more grounded,
Yeah,
wonderful,
100%.
perspective. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. And
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
best of luck with the launch of the app. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, thanks. You too. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Sure. Take care.